Thank you very much, Avinash, for introducing. And I think the topic is right on the time in Saudi Arabia, especially, and rest of the world. Today, I'll speak about the National Cybersecurity Authority (NCA), which is the prime cybersecurity authority here in Saudi Arabia, along with the other regulatory bodies such as CST for telecom, SAMA for financial institute, SADAYA for data privacy, and there is others regulators. But the super regulator and the one which has the most concern about the cybersecurity is the National Cybersecurity Authority, mandated by the kingdom decree, and it is the body which take care of all the information security as well as the cybersecurity. So as we know, cyber crimes are on the boom. I mean, they are everywhere, a major concern for the digital assets. The industry and estimates suggesting that annual losses are in trillion. When we say trillion, you're talking about the dollars or riyadh whatsoever. And then growth is driven by sophisticated attackers, because there are a lot of the attacks patterns, either motivated or either state sponsor or industry sponsor, whatever you name it, they are there. So the challenge is huge. For the digital presence, cybersecurity is a challenge now. So along with the Saudi Arabia, although we are operating in the region, we have operation in Dubai as well. But today's topic is more concerning to Saudi Arabia. That is where we picked up National Cybersecurity Authority as our regulator. Saudi Arabia, with its growing digital economy and Vision 2030 goal, is a prime target for cybersecurity attack, because the digital transformation itself is a flagship for Vision 2030. And that is where the stats come that Saudi Arabia faced over 22.5 million cyber attack in 2020, and it is escalating. And the estimated cost for each is around 6.5 million, and that is what the Institute of New Europe has reported. Cybercrime affected 3.6 million victims and caused over 0.5 billion in loss. So these are the stats you can read off, every second day in a different forum. But in reality, if you look at the reported incident, they are more than what we have learned from the media. The National Cybersecurity Authority itself has the mandate to establish a very robust, framework for everyone who operates here in Saudi Arabia. It's not only for the government agency, for everyone who is using a platform or the internet as a service, and their web presence or their data privacy and everything is applicable to them. Now, how it actually works, there are two major areas which has enforcing kind of code of practice. One is called Essential Cybersecurity Control, called ECC. Now, ECC itself starts from ECC 1, ECC 2, ECC 3, ECC 4, ECC 5. So there are 5 ECC domain, and each domain has a number of controls. And then there is operational technology, OT cybersecurity controls, which is called OTCC. So these are the controls which we will discuss today. Although the control itself required such a sessions for a whole day, I believe, or at least multiple sessions, but I will try to make it as brief as possible so that we can get something in our presentation. And then you can ask me questions based on whatever the ECC or whatever the OTCC you will learn today. So essential cybersecurity control are the one which is a part of the framework established mandatory cybersecurity requirement for organization operating within Saudi Arabia. So this is the fact that you cannot avoid anything that is not applicable. Most of them are applicable, but again, depends on your verticals and depends on your activities. However, there are some mandatory classes which applies to everyone. So ECC stand for Essential Cybersecurity Controls, and it has 5 domains, and each domain has sub-controls. Now, next is that how ECC emphasizes a layered approach built on 4 key pillars. So there are 4 key pillars. Based on that, ECC applies. Number 1 is a strategy. Define the organization, cybersecurity vision, objective, and risk management strategies. So it starts with risk management of every process. And then the second one is people, the people who are practicing, the people who are behind the IT. And it also covers the people who actually use IT as a platform. And that is rising the cybersecurity awareness to people. People who are operating the IT platform, the people who are using the IT platform or the application, and fostering a culture of security. So this is a people concern. And then we have a processes or process. The processes or process is establishing clear policies, procedures, and incident response plans for effective security management. So processes itself is very, very important. And the last is a technology or technologies, because without technology, the process cannot be effective and people cannot mitigate anything by their own hands or by the action. They need technology to be used. Now, technology itself, for example, firewall, for example, EDR, for example, all those, and then definitely access control like AM, PAM, MFA, and vulnerability management like VA penetration test. So these are these are 4 pillars, and each pillar has its own, division or its own way to handle. Now, come to the strategy. Strategy itself is conducting a cybersecurity risk assessment to identify the potential threat and vulnerability. Because once you identify the risk, then you can treat the risk and then you can mitigate the risk. So the identification of risk of each process, including the people, including the strategy, is very, very important. And the second one is establishing clear cybersecurity policies that align with the organization overall goals. So you set your goals, what do you want to achieve? What is your objective, which is basically a business objective, or your presence, and then establish your cybersecurity policy accordingly. And the third one is assigning ownership and accountability for cybersecurity within the organization. So there is a role, for example, one of the mandatory role is CISO, Chief Information Security Officers. Then there are, based on the size of the organization, you can set up the cybersecurity team. It could be 2 people and it could be 20 people, it can be 40 people, based on the size of the organization. But each role must have the accountability, and that accountability should be the part of the job description. Developing a strategy for a continuous improvement and monitoring the effectiveness of cybersecurity control. So this is the part of the strategy which has to be taken care by IT management or cybersecurity management, sorry. And also it is worth to mention that NCA mandated the cybersecurity as a separate organization, not under the IT director or normal IT management. So mostly the chief information security officers are reporting to CEO or MD or chairman. The reason behind is that they should operate autonomously with the full authority to report if there is any gap within the cybersecurity, or if there is any vulnerabilities which may cause by technology, by people, by process. Now, focus on people. The key control includes implementing security awareness training program within the organization for their employees, for their partners, and for their the consultant as well. Enforcing the strong password policy and access control, and identifying and reporting the suspicious activity if ever occurs or seen within the organization. Now, when it comes to process, Key control includes conducting regular risk assessment to identify and prioritize the vulnerabilities. Because some vulnerabilities, but to closing that vulnerabilities, it has the impact on the operation. So you have to bear that impact and make sure that that vulnerability should not, be the part of the hacking activity or the part which can raise the risk at a high level, and it can start compromising your solution. So that is where the priorities come. And developing and implementing a comprehensive incident response plan to deal with the security breaches. So incident response plan is very, very important here, that, it's everyday job, and it never stay as a one approach. It varies with the event and incident type as well as the approach. Maintain the clear documentation of cybersecurity policies and procedure. So this is very important, to follow the policies and then adopt the right procedures to mitigate the risk of anything which you noticed or your system noticed or it is reported through your SIM. Now, the next one is a technology. As a term, technology mean multiple technologies within the organization. Now, the first and foremost which mentioned is firewall. Firewall is the border line. Firewall is the one where mostly the internet services are entering or leaving. So that's the border side. It also coupled with the intrusion detection and intrusion prevention. And nowadays it has NDR, network detection and response kind of technology. And then from the other side, the system itself has EDR, XDR, and then others mitigation software and hardware. Patching software is like a very common thing, that any software which require patches, that has to be taken care. Encrypting sensitive data to protect in case of any breach. So let's say if data is compromised, but if it is encrypted, it would be very difficult for the other party or the hackers to detect, to find out the useful information. And then regularly backing up the critical data to ensure the recovery in case of any incident. So backup is another very, very important. And let me also tell you that this is a very basic NCA requirement. When we go on the the next seminar, then we will go in advanced level. At this stage, we are talking a very rudimentary, basic kind of requirement. Then more than just a regulation. I mean, NCA is not only a regulation. It is more than that. It actually helps you to build a stronger cybersecurity posture of your organization. So that basically start from people, process, technology, policy, procedures, and control-based environment. It increases the operational efficiencies through a clear role and responsibility related to the cybersecurity. It further improves the incident response capabilities, allowing for the faster and most effective recovery from the cyber breaches. It also mitigates the risk of the cyber attacks like data breaches and malware infection, identifies and addresses the vulnerability in your own system and the network, and it improves data protections and ensure the confidentiality, integrity of sensitive data, and availability of information. So these all basic fundamental IT parameters is taken care by NCA step by step. Then common implementation challenge. This is where we can, and you can rely on us, that we've been in the market for last more than 20 years, but purely in Saudi Arabia about 12 to 13 years, and been in the different organization for implementing the NCA controls. So that is where the common implementation challenges was observed, and today I'm here to share with you few of them, right? So organizational resistance to change is a very common phenomenon everywhere, but it is also applies here in Saudi Arabia. So whenever there is a change, the team who is having a routine job will definitely be leading to a pushback. So they will not accept immediately. And in some cases, they accept. But at the level, employees may feel threatened by a new process and policies. And what it will impact if they will not accept the changes, this resistance can slow down the implementation process and cause the friction among the team members and result in incomplete or ineffective adoption of the framework of NCA. So there is clear mandate that every organization to follow the NCA regulations and NCA control-based kind of cybersecurity resilience, but there is a resistance. Now, for example, employee might resist adopting a network security protocol or might not take a new training program, which is for everyone, such as security awareness program. So these are very common things which we see every day in the market. It depends on the leadership, the CISO, and the team leads who will go after, and they will make sure that the IT side is strong enough and people are ready to adapt. Now, next is integration with the existing system. Now, those existing systems required an upgradation in some cases. And in some cases, NCA framework needs to be integrated with existing IT system and infrastructure. And that is where the impacts come, that you need to follow the people's, you need to follow the process, you need to follow the new technology adoption. And the impact is technical incompatibility can arise. Because let's say a database was already running. Now you need to upgrade. Definitely there is some problems in upgradation. And meantime, you have to maintain the operation. You have to maintain the expectation of the people who are your user. So user never goes on that detail. They simply says, system is very slow. I cannot see my file. My data is disappearing. So these challenges create a lot of pressure on IT team and especially the cybersecurity team to make sure that the changes will not impact on day-to-day operation. And for example, legacy system might not support a new security protocol. So that is a very common thing, and you have to address it. And that should be the part of implementation, that you have to, find out the way that it should be smooth, seamless, and operationally acceptable. And then if there is, outage required, you should communicate the outage hours or window for outage very clearly so that it should not create a problem in terms of operation, in terms of the day-to-day activities of the organization. Now, strategies to overcome the challenges, that is where we try to see that how we ourselves actually have experience and how we assist the organization, that while the NCA regulatory requirement is there, technology upgrade is required, people are resisting, the supplier and vendors are not following the deadlines, or the deadlines is there, but again there is a compatibility issue. How can we address this one, and what would be the strategy at point one to ensure that journey is as smooth as much as possible? Effective change management is the first one. Until unless you don't have that ITSM tool, you have to have the change management somehow in place. Now, the change management involves preparing, supporting, and helping individuals and teams in making the organizational change. So you have to suggest the changes. You have to put that changes in the documentation form. It should go to the change approval board, which is CAB. And in the CAB, you can see that every stakeholder has a presence there. And it should be loudly communicated and get approved. And that is where the step one starts. So communication is the first and foremost in the change management. Clearly communicate the benefits and necessity of NCA framework to all employees. So you can mention in a change that the following change or changes will apply to NCA framework, and those framework will address the following controls, and those controls will be beneficial for organization to ensure that the security is fulfilled all the requirement, or the cybersecurity mitigation plan is fulfilled. Engagement. involve the employee in all levels in the implementation process to get their buy-in and address their constraint or concern. Sorry. When we discuss in a change approval board or the meeting, everyone should have its own voice, and that should be logical voice. And that logical voice has to be addressed to ensure that this change will not make anything which is unexpected, or if there is an unexpected event, then the rollback plan is there. So you can roll back your change and rethink or replan, rather than you stuck in a situation that your operation is totally compromised and there are a lot of shouting around you. So, for example, a regular meeting, workshop, and feedback sessions can help in addressing resistance and building a supportive environment for a change. So our message in today's seminar is that effective change management can help us to ensure that the implementation of NCA controls is possible if it is properly communicated, if it is properly accepted, and it is properly digested, and then it is properly performed. So these are the few tips or points which I would like to share in this webinar. Gaining executive buy-in, which means that the management should support. Without management support, it would be very difficult to implement any such change, especially in the technology part. Support from the top management is crucial for the successful implementation of the NCA framework. Now, steps. A, advocacy. Advocacy is the one which is basically present the business case for cybersecurity, highlighting the potential risk and benefit. So once you put a change or you want to implement something, you have to correlate this one with the mapping of the NCA controls and also highlight the potential risk if we will not do it, and also the potential benefit if we will put it. Involvement, ensure that executives are visibly involved in the process and advocate for the framework, because they are the one who are responsible. They are the one who are questionable for NCA, the NCA regulatory requirement of any organization, especially for CISO and above. And then example, demonstrating how cybersecurity align with overall business goals and can prevent costly incidents. So that is where it's not only the cost, the reputation itself. So that has to be demonstrated. That has to be conveyed to the all ranks who are involved or who are even the user, so that they can be part of your activities and backed up or supported by your executives, which is management, IT management and cybersecurity management. The next is fostering a culture of security. Fostering means how you convey and how you will buy out and how you will sell yourself. Fostering a culture of cybersecurity means embedding a cybersecurity into organizational culture, ensuring that all employees prioritize and practice good security habit. It's not only the password, but there are certain other things to be adhered, to be adopted. Now, steps, that's very general steps. Training, provide regular, comprehensive cybersecurity training tailored to a different roles within the organization. Because one is general cybersecurity awareness. One is specific to your role. For example, if you are a database admin, you have a different requirement. If you are a front end, you have a different department. If you are, user administration, you have different kind of roles. Recognition, reward and recognize the employee who actively contribute to a secure environment, like secure men of the month or women of the month. Example, implementing a security awareness program that includes phishing simulation, scamming, or any such new breed of hacking or kind of cyber threats, and regular updates on the cyber security best practices. So these are few things which you have to nurture within your organization. That's called culture of security or cybersecurity. Now, our next topic is building a roadmap for National Cybersecurity Authority, because it's a big adoption. Your IT is running. You are not new in IT, but now you are embarked to have NCA involved in terms of your day-to-day activities. And as we mentioned, that it has control-based organization, control-based cybersecurity mitigation plan. So how we can adopt that one? The first and the foremost is risk assessment. Risk assessment is an essential first step towards achieving the NCA compliance. Now, definitely, initially, you will do the risk assessment manually, or you will have the risk assessment through the special risk assessment tool. So if your organization is mature enough, definitely there is a risk mitigator or risk register, which is a software-based tool. If that does not exist, again, you can manage the risk assessment on Excel sheet or any piece of paper, but ensure that you have to identify the risk appetite and the acceptable risk level. And risk itself is a subject where we need a separate webinar, that how IT and cybersecurity risk assessment can be taken in account. Now, I will go through it a few steps, which will exactly explain you that how the risk assessment is important and how you can, get that one, fully addressed, or at least part of that assessment. Why conduct a risk assessment? The reason is, there are reasons behind. Understand your cybersecurity posture. Posture means how do you present yourself on internet? How you present yourself with the other peers on other organization? How do you use the digital platform within the organization? Identify and prioritize the threats and vulnerabilities. Let's say you are using an application which is a cloud-based application, and you are accessing from different offices within the Saudi Arabia. So definitely that would be a different posture. For example, you have only local data center and you have hardly any internet connectivity. You are totally air-gapped network. You don't have any connectivity. In some organizations, especially in police and defense forces, there's air-gapped network. So that is your different posture. Then, especially if you are working in a financial institute, banks, insurance companies, you have day-to-day activity with your customer, and you have a presence, everywhere in the country. So definitely there is a different posture. Each 3 types of or 4 type of organization has a different level of risk as well, and it has to be treated accordingly. The second one is what needs to be assessed. What are the parameters? Identify critical information asset first. So which assets are more critical than the others? Classify the databases or data based on sensitivity, because there are public data, there are confidential data, there are secret data, there are top secret data. So it depends on the type of the information which is data. Evaluate the impact of the potential breaches, that how prone or how visible is the data which can be compromised, or which can be attacked, or which can be the threat for us as a risk. And what are we looking for in terms of the risk assessment? External threats like hackers, malware, phishing attacks. Internal threats mean accidental kind of data leak or human error while communicating with each other, or communicating from organization to the public. And system vulnerability, such as software bugs, or outdated systems, or weak password, or a system without patches and stuff like that. What comes next? Analyze the likelihood and impact of the each risk, whatever you identify in step 1, 2, and 3, and prioritize the risk based on the severity. Critical, high, medium, low. You have to categorize that one, and then develop the plan to mitigate the identified risk. So these are the very few basic fundamentals which you have to consider. The next one is the one developing and implementing a cybersecurity policy. Policy is basically a code of ethics or code of practices between the employee and organization, between organization to organization, or anyone who actually adopt the IT culture has to follow or should follow the policy. A strong cybersecurity policy act as the foundation for a secure digital environment. So it is a constitution, a working constitution of IT systems. It empowered employees, demonstrates commitment to data security, and ensure everyone adheres to consistent security practices, significantly, reducing your overall cybersecurity risk. Meaning a code of practice which ensure the robust and resilient IT and cybersecurity environment. If you look at those principles, or if you look at those code of practices, it follows the rule set which you have to follow it. That's it. And that is what the more important for us to understand, that why policy is important. Now, policy itself has a number of sub-policies. So there is cybersecurity policy, and then under that policy, for example, acceptable use policy, mean how you will use your IT assets while you are at work. And if you are bringing anything from home, that will part of your organization. This is called BYOD. So these all are, sub policies which you have to, A, to know about it, and B, to practice accordingly. Now, the next one is also very important. Why is a policy important? As I already mentioned in my previous slides, that reduce the human error. When you follow the policy, there would be some sequence, there would be some rhythm, there would be some task, subtasks, and then there would be some prerequisites of those tasks. A clear policy empower employees to make informed security decisions, minimizing the accidental data leaks or falling victims to a phishing attempt. So phishing attempts, as you know, is a kind of common attack or kind of things which we face every day. And if you are not aware of it, you get involved, and then compromises happen. Now, demonstrate the commitment. A documented policy showcases your organizational dedication to a data protection, fostering trust with the customer, partner, and regulators, and enforces the consistent practices. The policy established and standardization approach to a cybersecurity across the organization. So cybersecurity cannot be in a part. The weakest link is actually the cybersecurity, not the strongest one. So let's say you have a very strong practices, but some of the part of the organization is the weakest link. That would be your overall security posture. Ensuring that everyone understand their role in protecting the information asset. So that is another key message from this webinar, that consider everyone as a part of your team and do not ignore, because that will become a weakest link in your cybersecurity organization. What to include in your policy, the key component, and it's a few, but it has more. For example, password management guidelines. Password is the first way. When you enter every morning, you have a system, you have username and password. Now, if your password is written on your desktop, or if your password is very easy, like your son name or your daughter name or your city name or anything, that is very easy to detect. So there are certain guidelines to set your password. Today, everywhere you have password, OTPs, and all this one. So why we are doing this one? To mitigate the attacks, to mitigate the losses, to mitigate the risk. Acceptable use of technology, as I said, AUP, acceptable usable policy, that is another one. Personal device usage, social media policies, while you can use at workplace or not. This is all depends on your policy. data classification, data handling procedure, protecting the sensitive information. How do you convey? What is the best way to talk on the telephone? How you can send somebody information, and that required proper policy to be adopted. Reporting the procedures for suspicious activity, phishing attempt, malware attempt, and there are many viruses and worms and trojans and those things which you are aware, which you should aware. Now, see, raising the cybersecurity awareness or raising the cybersecurity awareness among the employees. This is very important, that raising awareness, goes beyond the training session, which means that you have, awareness poster, you have awareness sticker, you have awareness messages in your email. There are many ways. By recognizing employee who reports threats, integrating security messages into a company culture, and leading by example, you create a shared responsibility for cybersecurity within your organization. So you see, the awareness is very, very important, so that you remind each other and you remind everyday activity that how it is important and how it will benefit to the organization. Now, I have only 5 minutes to complete my presentation, and then there would be a 15-minute or even more for question answer. So why we raise the awareness? What are the reasons? Human error is a major factor in cyber attack. Phishing, email attack, password leakage, all this one is basically a human factor. And social engineering, you might heard, people are using that for getting the information, and that is where the human error comes. Empower the employees can identify and avoid threats becoming a human firewall. So you see that human firewall is another factor. And then fostering a culture of security where everyone feels responsible for protecting information. So these are the why we need awareness. And then definitely the next one is the exceptional team orchestrating this webinar is on the slide. I would like to thank you for all of you, including Avinash, Maham, Taimur Zafar, Mubashir, Satti, Afshan, for organizing this one. And I think I am well on time. Still, I have 4 to 5 minutes to speak about it. But let's keep 20 minutes or 18 minutes for question answer rather than 15 minutes. So I hope this session was fruitful, and I am now ready to take your questions. And I can go back to any slide wherever your interest lies, and I can speak about it.
Sure. Thank you very much, Dr. Satti, for the insights. We do have some questions come in, and I would also request any of the participants to post in the chat or in the question section. So first one, we have something coming in from Itisham. So he's asking, what are the recommended practices for managing cybersecurity risks associated with third-party vendors?
Yeah, very good question, because alone organization cannot fulfill all the requirements. So there are multiple vendors involved and partners involved. So the first and foremost is that while selecting any partner or any vendor, there is the first and foremost is to exchange the NDA, so non-disclosure agreement. So that non-disclosure agreement should be signed both parties, so that once you share any information, it has to be protected through NDA, right? So this NDA itself is the first line of defense for your organization. Then definitely you have to take the assignment, and they should that there would be a dedicated team. So you can find out the dedicated team who is working with you, and they are exchanging kind of information. Also, the best practice is that you have to create their email so that you can communicate official email rather than communicating on Gmail and Hotmail or any public email. So either you have to communicate with the vendor's organizational email, or you have to create the email, because you will communicate, you will receive a lot of information, and you will pass on a lot of information. So the bottom line is, first line of defense is signing an NDA. Second line of defense is to control. Third line of defense is to make sure that their physical place and their physical access to a certain area is limited.
Sure. Thank you. We have one from Jawad. Is NCA compliance mandatory for the private sector in the kingdom, or is compliance still optional?
No, I think when we say private sector, definitely, if you are in a business, you definitely have a banking account, I mean your company account and stuff, and you are signing SLAs and stuff. So private sector is also involved. However, the enforcement lies on certain areas which is called CNE, critical network infrastructure. So that is mandatory. All others are optional.
Sure. We have something coming in from Temur. He's asking, how can organizations ensure cybersecurity training is effectively tailored to specific roles and responsibilities of different employees, ensuring relevance and engagement?
Yes, Temur, it depends organization to organization. But any organization which really practicing, the IT and cybersecurity as a forefront, and their goal is to make sure that their own data, their customer data, and the information is fully protected. The awared and certified employees and team is mandatory, and they are the one who actually recommended for such a job. So training itself required a proper planning. Even NCA and other regulators, they will come and see how is your training plan for this year, 2024. So they can see that, yes, A, awareness, B, product training, C, their overall management training. So all those trainings actually improves a lot when there is an education and when there is a training. But let's say if you have other things in priority, such as your system is upgrading, again you need a vendor training. So trainings depends on the environment, but the fundamental cybersecurity awareness training and cybersecurity itself is mandatory for the organization to maintain.
Sure. Just a follow-up question from Jawad. Is there a list available for critical infrastructure?
Yes, there is a list of CNE available, CNI available, and I can refer you the link where you can see that these are the critical network infrastructure which requires even if any private company operates that.
Okay. We have something coming in from Ravi. Can you share insights into NCA's approach to incident response and how organizations better prepare for and mitigate cyber attacks?
Well, what we see that NCA has a very strong monitoring regime set here in Saudi Arabia. So as we are operating here, so they have their own IP addresses related to their national network, which has Class B, Class C, most Class C. Those are all passing through the NCA Security Operations Center. If there is any incident and organization is not reporting, NCA will come and they will issue an incident report. And even they will share you the hashes, that those hashes are required you to put on your firewall. So this is one of the very encouraging role NCA is currently practicing here in Saudi Arabia. And if you are not taking care of it, definitely there are some fines and there are some penalties to the organization who are not compliant with the NCA advice and NCA kind of incident reporting.
Yep, and just to add on top of that, I think NCA has local sharing capabilities as well. So they work with the multiple SOC providers that are there. So if there's anything new that's been picked up in the environment, that sharing of IOCs is there. And we see, as a part of the SOC team, that a lot of the clients that are there, they do get NCA notices, and it's very critical for us to make sure that we are monitoring, we are sending the evidence, and I think NCA has set up a good mechanism for follow-ups as well to ensure that the infrastructure of Saudi Arabia is well monitored and well managed.
Yeah, even in some cases, they are referring a complete DFIR report digital forensic incident reporting. And organizations are forced to provide that incident reporting, and force them to make sure that it should not happen repeatedly.
Yep, and I think in the recent times we've seen a lot of the smaller organizations who have been approached by NCA, for the different kind of incidents. For example, we've had multiple organizations who are running their exchange, for example, and they were running, without the proper mechanism, without having the proper the technology or the policies or the procedures, and NCAs have sent them a notice. And we see that they go into a panic attack, and that's where, they quickly jump in and see if there's a consultancy firm who can assist them. And what we see is the trend is they try to do quick fixes. And with a lot of the clients that come on board, we see that yes, we can help them with the quick fixes, but they need to understand that they need to go back and run a gap analysis and to understand what are the weaknesses in their infrastructure, what is the problems that they're facing at core, and then build on that regime itself instead of doing firefighting situation where a lot of the small organizations are facing this.
Yep, you're right.
Okay, we have another question coming in from Syed Huzefa. How does NCA stay ahead of evolving cyber threats and adapt its strategies accordingly?
Well, I think NCA is not alone. There is other competitive regulators, but NCA leads all of them, supported by Ministry of Interior and the Ministry of ICT. And there are a lot of webinars, seminars, and they have, Saudi CERT, and the CERT has then relationship with the US CERT and the European CERT and the regional CERT. So they are well linked with the threat intelligence which they are sharing with each other, although they have their own customed threat intelligence. But they are also taking feeds from Europe, America, Australia, Canada, and the rest of the countries. So cyberspace is a common place where every second one is a player, and they are taking care of each other. Saudi Arabia is actively participating in that space and always keep abreast with the current threat models of the IOCs which they release up in US and elsewhere.
Okay, so we have one question in from Basit. How does NCA recommend organizations to handle data breaches, particularly in terms of communication and containment?
See, it itself has data privacy and everything, but especially in Saudi Arabia, if there is sensitive data or even PII data, personal identifiable information, Saudi Arabia has set up a new regulators called SADAYA that actually deals with the data and AI, artificial intelligence, and ML, machine learning data. ML, AI, and the existing legacy data all together is managed by SADAYA. SADAYA has closely working with NCA, and SADAYA equally working with GDPR, which is Europe, and DAMA in US, and CCPA in California, and APA Australia. So all those international organizations, and the Saudi organization like SADAYA itself has a framework called NDMO. So you see that they are coordinating with each other and exchanging information and making sure that the regulatory requirements for international community as well as the local is equally taken care by each and every organization.
Great. So, Dr. Satti, we have some participants who are joining us from Dubai. So there is compliance for NISA. There are other compliances that are regulating Dubai. So first of all, my question would be, how do you see the UAE and its approach for cybersecurity? And second question would be that a lot of the organizations, they're shifting to the Saudi Arabia as their main operations. So how can they? What is a good process for them to kind of do this migration where they are compliant to maybe the UAE, but they need to take steps into getting used to Saudi Arabia as well, because apart from NCA, we see a lot of financial sector moving, and they're facing a lot of challenges from SAMA. So if you could just give us a little summary about the UAE and then migrations to Dubai, to Saudi Arabia as well, please.
Very good question. Mubashir, as you know, ITButler starts its journey back in 2005 in Dubai, and we are still operating from Dubai. So NISA is the later one, but before that, there was ISR, adoption of ISO 27001, and so was very early stage when Saudi Arabia was even not in that area. However, when you migrate or when you try to have operation from Dubai to here, or you are setting up a new office here in Saudi Arabia, definitely there are some challenges. However, whatever my knowledge is about the organization operating in UAE, especially in Dubai and Abu Dhabi both, they are well versed. They know how to do it. They have policies, they have procedure, they have adoption of technology. All they need to adopt the new code of practices here. For example, we see few fintech companies are coming very, very fast here in Saudi Arabia. So definitely SAMA has its own regulatory setup. For example, the first and foremost is CSF, Cybersecurity Framework. Then there is IT governance, which is a total different. And then there is a BCM, Business Continuity Management. So they will not ask you day first that how do you do your BCM. They will ask you first CSF. Now CSF is very, very close to NISA and ISR. So if they adopt it and they already have a policy, all they need to change few things relate to the control which is CSF defined. The second one is a bit tough, which is IT governance. But again, as I said, the UAE organization have more or less the same practices. So yes, there would be some challenges, but not the one which is, surprise them that how they are asking for this one. They will be very much into that area and they can fulfill the regulatory requirement. Yes, there is a journey from UAE to here, not a physical journey, logical journey. So logically, they have to follow the rule set, which is set by the regulators here, like NCA, Sataya, kind of SAMA.
Sure. Just wrapping things up, Dr. Satti, we will just do one question that Vanita has posted. And I think it's a pretty interesting one because we see a lot of migration in this. So Vanita's asked, as an organization increasing migration from on-prem to cloud, how does NCA play a pivotal role in ensuring security and compliance on cloud environment? Usually cloud vendors will look after the patching activities. So she wants to know the role of NCA here.
Yeah, exactly. When it comes to NCA rules, they are as strict as you are from operating from your data center and migrating to cloud. Now, the cloud itself here has 3 classes: A, B, C, primary, middle, and high. And each class of cloud has some restriction. For example, if you want to host something which is related to a public data or citizen data, you should have Class C kind of cloud approved by CST. CST is a telecom regulator, and cloud comes under CST. And CST is as rigid, as strong as NCA. So they look like a same family, brother and sister. Whatever NCA is saying, CST is adopting, and CST further adding the telecom part into the operational kind of strategy. So moving from data center to cloud mean you have now the responsibility to ensure NCA plus CST compliance. And then CST itself has 3 categories: CL1, CL2, CL3. So it has a steps. For example, initially you have to adopt this one. And there are 2 types of responsibility. One, the cloud provider responsibility. The one which is cloud user or adopted organizational responsibility. CL1, CL2, CL3 is for the one who are migrating from data center, which is only NCA governed kind of organization. Moving into a cloud mean, yes, you have to keep the NCA control intact, but you have to follow the clouds itself, which is CL1, CL2, and CL3. So, for example, in your on-prem, you have 166 control. The moment you will go to adopt the cloud, you will add another 45, 46. You cannot reduce the NCA because NCA applies to data privacy, personal interaction, email, web presence, stuff like that. That will remain as is. Top of that, you are accessing your cloud from a different location, so you need to adopt the CSD regulation as well. Does it make sense? Mubashir?
Yep. Thank you very much, Dr. Satti, for your time.
Any more questions? We have 1 minute. Else, thank you so much for attending this webinar. We have a webinar, also some awareness lecture to keep our friends and our customers always well aligned with the cybersecurity challenges. And thank you, team, for enabling me for this webinar.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining us today. Uh, for
Avinash,
this
if I might.
insightful webinar on security and cybersecurity. We hope the knowledge and strategy shared by our experts have equipped you with valuable tools to enhance your organization security posture. And I would like to thank Basar sir as well for addressing all the questions in front of Sati sir. So thank you so much, sir. And thank you everyone for joining us today.
Thank you, and I look forward to meet you guys again. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.